now call to order the regular town board meeting for the town of Arundecoit, June 28th, 2017. Visitors are invited to join the board members in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilwoman Barnum.
Here.
Councilwoman Hushler-Ray.
Here.
Councilman Perdicone.
Here.
Councilman Weiner.
Here.
Supervisor Sealy.
Here.
An attorney for the town.
Here.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everybody here. Just a few things, housekeeping items to get out of the way. First, we do have actually several public hearings on the agenda. Those won't start till 7:35. That's the time we're required by town law to start, but we will start those promptly. I'll note that there is two open public hearings actually from the month before, one of which I do plan on calling up regarding 25 Cottonwood Lane, traffic device being installed there. The other being a proposed change to the town's homeowner exemption law, which we will still remain open for tonight and take up likely at a later time. Just a few opening remarks. If you've been around town, you've probably seen some exciting projects taking place. Camp Eastman, we're removing a large berm in the back of Camp Eastman to make way for 4 new athletic fields. And if you haven't been back there, I encourage you to take a look. The machinery is really fascinating. It's just scraping this huge hill that's been there for decades and filling it. So we'll have 4 new athletic fields for our youngsters. The ballpark complex behind Town Hall, the Phase 2, is taking shape. That includes the construction of a concession stand, dugouts, and thankfully restrooms. And you might have also seen on your way in our destroyed DPW garage. The oldest part of the DPW garage was demolished last week. That'll make way for a temporary facility to get us through the next few years as we construct a new facility off campus. So first, some good news. Last night, both houses of the state legislature unanimously passed legislation to provide flood relief for homeowners, business owners, and municipalities who've been battling high water levels this spring. Additionally, Assemblyman Joe Morelli introduced an amendment to provide relief for Monroe County towns who incurred high costs in the wake of the March windstorm, so Arundecoit particularly. This could mean several $100,000, and we're thankful to our delegation for their attention to our municipal budgets as well as property taxpayers. Arundecoit was recently named the only town in upstate New York to receive grant funding as part of the Cities Rise program, which we will be accepting a grant for later. This initiative, spearheaded by Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, provides guidance and licensing for certain property management software. It will allow us to better manage our nuisance vacant properties, and we're grateful for this funding. Recently, I announced an exciting partnership with our community of realtors that will combine our efforts to promote Arundecoit. For the town and our many great realtors who list properties in Arundecoit, we have a mutual interest to ensure that the positive image of the town is being portrayed. This effort includes the production of promotional material of Arundecoit that will ideally be featured at open houses for prospective buyers. Furthermore, the town is garnering feedback from business owners in Arundecoit and has posted an online survey on the town website. This will help the town better understand its relationship with our many businesses in town as we look to improve the overall business climate in Arundecoit. The business questionnaire, again, is available at arundecoit.org. I always love promoting our neighborhood associations, so let me plug the inaugural meeting of 2 new associations in Arundecoit. The Somerville neighborhood in the northwest part of town will have its first meeting on June 27th at the Rochester Yacht Club, 7 p.m. The Hidden Valley neighborhood, which is the area north of Titus between Kings Highway and Culver, which I like to call the Ranch Dressing neighborhood, will have their first meeting on Thursday, June 29th at 7 p.m. For more information about these groups or how to join, call my office, please, at 336-6029, or visit a website that was just launched, arundecoitneighborhoods.org. Look at the calendar. We really start to beef up activity at Town Hall this time of year. You saw the concert band prepping in the gazebo, and we have the farmers market every Thursday night. This Wednesday, actually here in the town library, I believe, we will be hosting an intake session for those impacted by high water levels. Sheen Housing, the non-for-profit agency administering the program for Monroe County, will be here at Town Hall to accept applications for flood recovery programs, as well as answer questions regarding eligibility. Call my office at 336-6029 for more questions. This coming Saturday is our annual bike rodeo at the St. Paul Fire Department for our young kids from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Kudos to the Irondequoit Police Department for putting that on annually. Friday, June 27th, 6:30 p.m., the Friends of the Library will have their annual meeting. They celebrate 45 years, and we're very proud of them and always appreciate their support of our library. Our Sunday summer concert series at the Gazebo kicks off this coming Sunday, June 25th. Hereafter, every Sunday at 2:30 p.m., you can come to Town Hall for free entertainment as we have a nice array of acts every Sunday. A full listing of this lineup is available on the town website. As I said, Farmers Market continues every Thursday evening starting at 4 p.m. with live entertainment each evening starting at 6 p.m. Thursday, July 13th, and for those of you in here, don't worry, the people at home have a cheat sheet that runs on the banner so they can write this down. Thursday, July 13th, will mark our first of 4 Movie Under the Stars, starting at 8:45 on the West Lawn. The first film will be one of Councilman Wayner's favorites, Finding Dory. Please visit the town website for a full lineup. The Irondequoit Art Trail opening reception will take place Friday, July 7th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Artist Cave on Culver Road. And now on to our holiday activities. Town offices will be closed July 3rd and 4th for the observance of Independence Day holiday. July 4th, our Festival Town Hall is getting bigger and better, free of admission, I'll note. At July 3rd, a Monday, starting at 11 a.m., the lawn will be transformed into an arts and crafts show with live music, kids' activities, etc. That will run on all day on the 4th as well. The annual street dance featuring Nick Light, which I'm told is a smaller version of Nick and the Nice Guys, will begin at 7 p.m. on Titus Avenue on Monday. And as always, we have both nights we have live entertainment in the Beverage Garden, adults only. July 4th, Tuesday, the 2-mile and 10K races will begin at 7:45 and 8:15 respectively. Please visit the link, hopefully on your screen, for more information, or if it's not on your screen, visit the town website. The area's largest parade begins Tuesday at 11 a.m. along Cooper Road and Titus Avenue, ending at Town Hall. The town's newest tradition, the reading of the Declaration of Independence, will take place after the parade, approximately 1 o'clock, on the steps of Town Hall. Beginning at 1:30, following the Declaration reading, we will celebrate our country by welcoming our latest round of American citizens at a naturalization ceremony on the front steps of Town Hall. Thanks to County Clerk Bello for organizing that. And then at 2 p.m., we renew our tradition with our Red, White, and Shoe pie eating contest sponsored by Herma's Market. This will take place in front of the gazebo. Interested contestants can call 336-6034 to register. And as always, the bigger and better fireworks show begins at dusk. So lots going on in the upcoming weeks, and I thank you all for your attention to that. That'll probably be my lengthiest supervisor's remarks of the year. At this point, we have our town auditor, Bonadillo, Randy Shepard, from Bonadillo to give a presentation of the town's annual financial statement and audit results. So I'm going to ask the board members to join me in the front row and invite Mr. Randy Shepard up from the Bonadillo Group to give a brief presentation, which was also given at the workshop meeting June 13th.
Okay. Good evening, and first of all, thank you to the town board, Mr. Supervisor, for allowing me to speak with you this evening. And I also want to thank the audit committee, which is our volunteers from the community that also assist in this process in helping the town maintain fiscal control. And I also want to thank Annie and Diana and everyone else in the finance office who make our job a little bit easier here when we come up to do the audit of the town. So with that, we'll review some material here, really just in high level. And again, we did review this in great detail with the audit committee as well as with the town board and workshop last week. So our responsibility and what you hire us for is to make sure that the financial statements of the town are fairly stated in all material respects. And the second to last bullet there at the bottom states that we did issue what's called an unmodified opinion, and that's important. It's the highest level of assurance that we can give as an audit firm. and it's important for you as you go out for bonding, things like that. It impacts your credit rating. When you've got a good audit report, that definitely helps from that process, and it tells you that the things that are happening here at the town fiscally are operating very well. So if we look at the governmental activities, some of the key highlights, these numbers represent what's called the government-wide, which is all the assets and liabilities of the town combined, and you can see the net investment in your capital assets is about $27 million. And you've got what's called a negative unrestricted net position. That really relates to some long-term liabilities for post-retiree health care, as well as the net pension liability related to the pension cost with the state. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad position to be in. Most every municipality or government in New York State is going to be in that position soon as these liabilities for health care continue to climb. The key is, and what you do on a regular basis, is funding that from an operational perspective. And when we look at your fund basis financial statements and your budget, you can see that you do that very well. Looking at your governmental funds, which is all of the funds of the town, the general fund, highway, etc. Non-spendable fund balance is about $98,000, and assigned fund balance, which essentially represents monies set aside for various funds like your highway funds, grant funds, etc., your self-insurance fund, make up that balance. And in the unassigned category is negative, and that is a result of a bond anticipation note that was issued in relation to the building next door here. And in governmental funding, what happens is that's considered a short-term borrowing that shows as a liability. Once that's converted to long-term debt, which will be done once everything is completed, that comes to the bottom line and changes that negative number to a positive number. So that's not something to be alarmed at. That's a normal process in municipal governmental accounting. And this is a little bit small, but what this slide is intended to present is kind of a 3-year history of those governmental funds. And if you look at that line right there, that's the bond anticipation notes payable. Started back at $12 million in 2014, is up to $13 now. And you can see at the same time, that's where this line here started going negative as you started issuing more amounts on that band. So those two lines are directly related. As that bond anticipation note payable goes away, the unassigned fund balance will increase. And then looking at this slide here, which is your revenues and expenditures, you can see where you were from an operations perspective, deficiency of revenues over expenditures. The main reason in 16 that this is a negative is you did have some significant write-offs due to the fire that the supervisor mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. Over $3 million worth of vehicles and buildings that were written off because of that. So that ended up being a loss. Now, what will happen is next year you'll get insurance proceeds to cover a portion of that. Obviously not all of it, but it will recover a portion of that. That will help inflate or go back to the bottom line or fund balance of the town. And just a couple graphical information related to the general fund. This is the right way you want to be. The blue line represents your budget. The red line is your actual. And you can see your actual revenues were in excess of your budgeted revenues for each of the last 3 years. So again, very positive there. And looking at your expenses, same idea. You've got the blue line as the budget, red is actual. Here you want the red line to be less than your blue line. So the fact that you're able to control those expenditures through the year is positive and helps to drive fund balance up for those funds. Looking at actual revenues and expenditures, you can see for the most part for 14 and 15, you did have revenues in excess of expenditures. And then for 16, as I mentioned, you had a slight deficit there, primarily as a result of the write-off of the vehicles in the building due to the fire. And then this is just looking at the change in fund balance itself. So for 2016, it was essentially break even. The way I view that, when you're talking about a $20 million budget, to be essentially at a break even point, I think is a pretty good operations, pretty good management there. That's the fund balance levels we talked about, stayed pretty flat year over year. In terms of some other funds, just to give you some highlights, the highway fund, the fund balance there is just under $900,000 at the end of 2016. It did increase by about $114,000 year over year. And if you look, the expenditures, the fourth bullet down, were less than the prior year. So you had lower cost in transportation. And the other piece was some debt payments were decreased over last year. So that helped to decrease your expenses there, or expenditures there, excuse me. And then lastly, looking at the sewer fund, we've got a fund balance of just over 2.1 million there. That did go down by about 350,000 year over year, primarily related to the last bullet there, where $280,000 for capital projects that went over to finance those in the capital projects fund. So overall, I think positive operating results for the town, and as I said, we went through a lot of this stuff in detail with the board and with finance. So if there's nothing else, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy, and I also just like to thank Comptroller Seeley, her staff, and particularly the members of our audit committee who work with us, myself, our staff, in really providing an independent lens to look at the audit. And a few things I'll note. First, for those of you here in attendance, this is I think you came for a hearing, but you got to see a brief glimpse at the financial overview of the town, so you're welcome, I suppose, for that. But I'll also note it's available on our town website under the Comptroller's page if you want to review it in further detail. And I will just note we recently went to refinance some of our long-term debt and ultimately realizing savings. One of those aspects we had to go before Moody's, our credit rating. And one of the biggest things they look at is your fund balance and how the state of that is in. So the fact that we were able to maintain our solid credit rating speaks to our management of those funds and keeping those robust. So we will continue to use that as an objective as we budget. So thank you again, Randy. We now move on to public input. It is 7:17. So I'll just note, for those of you here for general public input, you're welcome to come up and speak. If you're here to speak on one of the hearings we have up, there is a sign-in sheet for the specific to the hearing. I'm going to ask Mr. Sinton to grab me the sign-in sheet for public input. But if you have not signed in to speak at one of the public hearings, I encourage you to do so, and then we'll have a roster of folks to speak. Okay. Thank you. Okay, first up, I have Jim Tappan, 197 Deerfield Drive. Mr. Tappan, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak. I'm here representing CCL, Citizens Climate Lobby, tonight, and we're looking to get something passed through in the federal government. So we're looking for people who can provide support. Citizens Climate Lobby is a national organization, but it has local chapters in each representative district. At least that's the goal. We're getting there. And they have a very specific point that they're trying to get, and that is to get a policy of carbon fee and dividend implemented or at least opened up in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Carbon fee and dividend has three very specific points. They would like to put a fee on fossil fuels at the source. So if it's a well or a mine or a port of entry where something is coming in, this fee we're recommending starts at $15 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent and steadily increases by $10 a year. All of the money that's collected from that is in the CCL's policy would be returned back to the residents on a regular basis, hopefully a monthly basis, where they'd get a dividend back. Because we know when the price of carbon goes up, that means everybody that manufactures things with carbon in it, fossil fuels and things like that, they're going to raise their rates. And so by getting all the money back to the homeowners on a regular basis, a monthly basis, that will cover or more than cover the increased costs. They estimate two-thirds of the population will actually get more money back than they're spending on the extra cost. The third piece of that is that there would be a border tariff to make sure that companies don't just move to a different country that doesn't have this kind of a tax. And so when their products come into the United States, they would get a tax, and so that it balances out to make sure that everything's the same. Also encourages other countries to put similar type of policy in place. Now, what I'm trying to do, what I want to do tonight, there's been one procurement proclamation made by the Rochester City Council saying that they support something like a fee and dividend kind of policy. Those kinds of statements are taken up to Louise Slaughter to be taken to the House of Representatives. We're trying to encourage her to get involved in caucuses and be aware of all of these kinds of issues. The focus has been on individuals, signing a statement saying this, and when we go to talk to Louise, we bring in a stack of cards, postcards and things like that, where people are stating that. We're now looking at the business community, and so we're looking at businesses, we're looking at metro locations, and we're also looking at large colleges and universities to get them to come up, because that will have a lot more weight than just an individual. So my request to you tonight would be to consider a carbon fee and dividend, and to make a recommendation that we could put in a proclamation that could be taken up to Louise Slaughter, also to the county legislature through our representative, and so that they understand that and could maybe also make some sort of a proclamation of the same type of thing. I have several documents that I will leave you, and also would like to tell you that myself and other people with the CCL would be glad to help you if you wanted to help put together that proclamation.
Very good. I'll have my office follow up perhaps to set up a time for myself and any interested board members to meet, maybe to discuss further. You can leave the documents with the town clerk, and she'll disseminate them to us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Tavin. We have three individuals signed up referencing bow hunt, so I'm going to defer that unless you have another topic you'd like to speak about. We want to keep the bow hunt comments germane to that public hearing. I will get you in closer to the top of the hearing, not at the beginning, but in the first half of our folks signed up, just in fairness to those who signed up for the hearing. So permit me that, privilege to do so. There's no one else signed up on the sheet for general public input. If there anyone that wishes to address the board at this time, please come forward. If not, I will close public hearing, and we can move on to our financial report. Madam Comptroller?
2017 financial results for the town as of May 31st. Total expenditures and encumbrances are $16,977,000, equating to 49.7% of budget, higher than the 41.7% of the year that has elapsed. Actual expenditures are $13,553,000, and encumbrances are another $3,425,000. Included in the total are approximately $2.3 million of fire-related expenditures, $1,158,000 of actual fire-related expenditures, and $1,169,000 of encumbrances. Without the fire-related expenses, the town would be at 42.9% of budget, or $14,650,000. The basic breakdown of the $2.3 million in fire-related costs: highway $1,207,000, sewer $664,000, general fund $445,000, storm drainage $11,000. The general fund expenses are 45.3% of budget, or $9,063,000. Those expenditures break down as follows: actual expenditures $7,752,000, and encumbrances $1,311,000. Included in the general fund is approximately $445,000 of fire-related expenses. Without those expenses, the general fund would be at 43.1% of budget. The general fund is experiencing increased overtime in the tree and solid waste programs, primarily due to the windstorm cleanup effort. Altogether, the highway expenses are $3,893,000, 68.7% of budget, above the 41.7% of the year that has elapsed. In highway, the traditional year-after-year expenses remain prevalent, such as encumbrances for gas, fuel, and equipment vehicles in Highway 1, installment debt in Highway 3, and salt in Highway 4. Actual and encumbered fire-related expenses are $1,207,000. If you were to exclude these expenses, the highway would be at 47.4% of budget. That 47% of budget is lower than the past 2 years at this point in time. Other significant funds. The total library expenditures are 48% of budget, a total of $1,147,000, which includes $444,000 of debt service for the library bond anticipation note. The high expenditure percentage results from timing and should level off by year end. The sewer fund is 53% of budget, which equates to $2,208,000 of total expenses. The fire-related portion is $664,000. Sewer would be under budget at 37.1% if the fire expenses were excluded. The stormwater drainage expenses total $229,000, 29.2% of budget. Included here is $11,000 of fire-related costs, so the non-fire-related expenses equate to 27.7% of budget. The general fund revenue, as of the end of May, is 70% of budget, a total of $13,823,000. 100% of tax revenue, equating to $10.6 million, has been received. Also received is the total pilot that is currently due of $171,000, 89.3% of that budget. Pilot is payment in lieu of taxes. The total revenue resulting from recreation program fees is $185,000, favorable to budget at 58.9%. 2 months of sales tax totaling $637,000, or 15.7% of that line item, has been received to date. The other major revenue items are not yet due. Included in total revenue is $1.5 million of insurance recovery. The general fund revenue exclusive of fire recovery is $12,323,000, or 62.4% of budget. To summarize the entire town for the first 5 months, the total revenue received along with the appropriated fund balance is $25.5 million, or 75.6%. Again, the insurance recovery of $1.5 million is a one-time unusual, or it's a one-time cost. Without that amount, the receipts would be $24 million, or 71.2%. Real estate taxes across all funds are all in and have been in since the end of February, and they're all in at $16.7 million. The total library has received, the library has received $2,291,000 of its budgeted revenue, or 95.8%. 75.3% of $4.2 million has been received by the highway funds, and sewer has collected $4 million, 97.3% of its revenue. This concludes my financial report for the month of May.
Thank you, Annie. Again, we appreciate you being able to segment out or divorce out the fire-related expenditures relative to the our general expenditures that we would have incurred as budgeted last year. It's good to know that despite additional burdens on our operating expenses, namely because of Mother Nature, we're in pretty solid footing if you divorce out that fire, for which likely we'll have a claim process that we're working through that will make the town close to whole. So I appreciate you continue to do double work almost and use multiple parts of your brain.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on the financial report? Okay, I'll have a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report is accepted. Madam Clerk?
Approval of minutes, May 9th, 2017, the workshop meeting.
I'll take a motion.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments, revisions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are accepted.
May 16th, 2017, the regular town board meeting.
Motion.
Move.
And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Peter. Any questions, comments, revisions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. We will now move forward to our first item for board action, which we will probably be able to squeeze in at least one or two, and then get on to our public hearings. So-
Item number 1, authorizing the supervisor to enter into a contract with AVS, Inc. for the 2018 assessment update.
Motion?
Move. Second?
And a second. Thanks, Ms. Hustleray. This is a simple revision to the contract that will augment it slightly. This is the contract we've entered into to provide services for our revaluation, which will take place largely through 2018. It's just a modification to fully reflect the scope of work and cost. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 2, calling for a public hearing on the matter for rezoning 4530 St. Paul Boulevard.
Motion
Moved.
and a second.
Second.
Thank you. This, earlier in June, a application for a rezone was made for a property on 41 Colebrook Drive, also, or I will say it's also known as 4530 St. Paul Boulevard, the former St. Thomas Church. Pursuant to town code, the town board is required to accept a rezoning application, hold a public hearing, notify residents within a certain perimeter. The proposed rezoning would be from R1 to R5 for the purposes of apartments. It comes from Capstone Real Estate Development, which is acting as an agent on behalf, or is authorized by the Catholic Diocese, namely St. Cattery, to act on, to have Capstone act on its behalf. Concurrently to this, we will hold a public hearing to discuss the rezone from R1 to R5. Concurrently, the zoning board and planning board will take up reviews. However, they are not going to act on anything until the town board makes a determination of rezone. So they will take intake. The planning board, I believe, to consider a subdivision between the church and the school, and the pending site plan approval as well. The zoning board, I believe, a setback variance. Is that correct, Ms. Kelly?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay, thank you. And after we accept this application for rezone, we will be promptly notifying the neighbors within a pretty large radius, and certainly encouraging them to come to speak on the hearing. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 3, declaring the intent of the town board of the town of Arundequoit to be lead agency pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act regarding applications related to 4530 St. Paul Boulevard.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second. Thank you, Mr. Weiner. This just declares our intent to be lead agent pursuant to seeker. We have planning board and zoning board also as interested agencies. The town board thus ideally will declare itself lead agency and conduct the state environmental review. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. I believe it is now 7:35. We can now move on to our first public hearing. Madam Clerk?
Public hearing 6 PH 2017-1 on the matter of modifying an existing special use permit for restaurant located on premises at 1780 East Ridge Road in a C Business District.
Okay, motion to open the public hearing?
Move.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing is opened. Okay, this public hearing involves modifying an existing special use permit for a restaurant on premises of 1780 East Ridge Road in a C Business District. Namely, the current special use permit allows for specific hours and seating. It's my understanding that the request would not exceed the seating of the special use permit, but would ask for relief on some additional hours, as well as the use of a smoker in the back of the restaurant, the premises, to prepare food. The restaurant is Shimmy Southern Kitchen, which I believe has opened up in the past month, and this allows them to fully implement their business plan as they presented it to us. So now I will now invite a representative of the applicant to come forth and speak. Hello, sir. Would you just please identify yourself
Yes, my name is Philip Hounshell,
and your address?
282 Hazelwood Terrace, but Shimmy's Restaurant, 1780 East Ridge Road.
Thank you, sir. So why don't you just walk us through, I guess, I know the planning board had some questions for clarification, and thank you for submitting that to our planning department. The planning board did provide a recommendation with some certain provisions and questions for clarity. Why don't you just give an overview first of the business, what you've done, what you're looking to do?
The business opened about 6 weeks ago, and it's a barbecue, southern food kitchen. One of the main things we want to do is have a cooker where we can actually smoke the meat outside 3-4 days out of the week. Just will give a different flavor to the foods that we're presenting. It'll be a small, about 5-foot grill, and we're just doing dinner, so between the hours of 3 to 6, we'll be cooking meat. We just need that open. As far as additional hours, we're currently open from 4 to 9. We're looking at potentially going to 11 o'clock. Nothing is in writing at this time, but they're just saying go forward and put in the additional hours while we have the special use permit open. So,
Okay. So I believe the request was for 2 a.m.?
yes, we do not have any intention at this point in time to go on to 2 o'clock, but just to expand those hours if ever that came into play.
Okay. And you do have a liquor license?
We do not currently have a liquor license. We do have a permit that is already in play. We're
Gotcha.
looking-
So your intent is to get permission to sell
sell
alcohol for
wine
consumption
and
on
beer,
presence?
yes,
Okay.
Only wine and beer? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Pete.
Only wine and beer?
yes. It's a full liquor license.
So the smoker is kind of the whole, I guess what I'll ask a few questions about. It's to be located in the back of the building, correct?
In the back of the building.
And you provided a lot of pictures and detail about it, so I thank you for that. And I do have a letter from the property owner consenting to that. Is there a separate entrance to the restaurant in the back?
Yes, there is.
Will that be for customers?
No, that would not be for customers. That would just be for the kitchen.
Gotcha.
Access to the kitchen where the grill is.
Okay. So, I've and Councilman Weiner actually used to be a competitive barbecue guru, but smokers, I don't say it creates an impact, but there is a neighborhood in the back. Just you have wind in general. I mean, I've been to Sticky Lips, and you drive down Culver Road and you smell it. And it's not a bad thing, but just is there an idea of the radius of the what the good odor can spread to, just to get an idea of the impact?
I am not sure. As I'm looking at the area itself, you have a border in the back, walls up. It's about 2 or 3 acres back there, so I wouldn't imagine that it would carry too far into the neighbors' houses. And then you have many restaurants right there in that area. So
Okay.
as far as, I'm not sure how we would go forward is to determine how far the smell would travel.
I know, it's a tough question to ask. I'm just, and you do have a neighborhood there, and again, it's not it's an interesting impact, I guess I would say. For many people, it's in the nose of the beholder, I guess. So I'm just curious if you could speak to that. Any other questions from the board?
I think I saw that you're only going to be using the grill for 6 hours a day. I mean, tell me a little bit about, is that true? Or you're going to be going, I mean, some of the big meats, if you really want to,
No,
Or
we
12
would
or 18-hour smoke.
start around 2 o'clock. By 6 o'clock, we'll be finished. So between 2 and 5, well, not, yeah, between 2 and 6, it should be finished.
is it a stick burner or you're doing a wood burning?
Wood burning.
I will note that our fire marshal has reviewed the site plan and not found any concerns with the equipment. So, I thank you for going through this process. I know it can be cumbersome, but anytime we're going beyond what's authorized, we just want to do our due diligence. I'm interested if board members have thoughts on the hours of operation. I think 11 o'clock is good. I know the other restaurant I think of that's open that has a bar is Applebee's across the street, and I believe they're 1 a.m. on the weekends. 1 a.m., 2 a.m. during the week, I get a little concerned with that, especially since food consumption might not be, if it pivots to being more of a bar tavern. A little concerned about that, so I might have reservations about going beyond maybe midnight on a weekday, but perhaps on par with what Applebee's is permitted, 1 a.m. on the weekend. Just interested if folks have thoughts.
I mean, I kind of agree with you that, I mean, is it a restaurant or is it a bar? I mean, you said that, that you were kind of advised to maybe add that in there, just kind of what if, but if it doesn't really fit your business model, I think it would cause less concern for me if it was not open till 2.
No, we have no intention of going to 2 at this current time. We don't really see it in the future. We are focused on the restaurant.
Okay.
So that is the main thing. And we wouldn't have a problem. Even the 12 o'clock time frame would be fine for us.
Well, I mean, again, I know Applebee's it's 1 a.m. on the weekends. I don't want to hold you to it. They're right across the street. They don't abut a neighborhood, but same commercial corridor, et cetera. If it's not a primary entrance in the back, that alleviates some concern. People will be using the front. What you don't want is people congregating in the back parking lot, and it doesn't seem like that's your business model. Your business model is to serve good food, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm good. I'll ask you to step down, and we're going to invite anyone else who wants to comment in the public hearing to come up. Would anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Okay, hearing none, I will accept the motion to close public hearing.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Madam Clerk, please call up the first agenda item for this public hearing.
Item 1A, adopting a negative declaration in the matter of modifying an existing special use permit for a restaurant located on premises at 1780 East Ridge Road in a C Business District.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. For any modification, for any special use permit, a seeker is required. What type of action is this, Ms. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We're recommending an unlisted action. This is an unlisted action for purposes of seeker. Visual impact and land use were taken into consideration. I can speak to that if.
Go ahead.
The proposed outdoor smoker will be placed at the rear of the property and sited in a way that will minimize the visual impacts. It's compatible with the surround development and uses and does not pose any adverse impacts. We also took into consideration outdoor light and noise. The operation of the smoker will produce odors associated with the preparation of barbecue meats that will be served on the premises. The smoker is located in close proximity to the existing building. Additionally, the odor impacts will be mitigated through the limited number of days per week, as we mentioned earlier, and proposed hours of operation, 12 to 6:30. No new lighting is proposed. However, if lighting were needed, this type and style solar-powered hanging lights would not produce light spill off the property line. For this reason, a negative declaration is recommended, given that no large adverse environmental impacts are associated with this action.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Any questions or comments on seeker? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item 1B, modifying an existing special use permit for a restaurant located on premises at 1780 East Ridge Road in a C Business District.
Motion? And a second?
Second.
I'm going to offer, in the be it therefore resolved, that the town board hereby approves a special use permit, or approves a special use permit with the following conditions, I should say, that the hours of operation shall be until midnight, and by all means, if, and that's the end of the condition, by all means, if that wishes to change your business model, et cetera, please come to us again, and we'll work with you and consider it. But for now, I think, that, at least me personally, that's what I'm comfortable with.
I'll move with that condition.
And it sounds like you have a great business model, and I wish you the best of luck. And do I have
Doesn't want to
a,
work till 2 in the morning anyway, do you?
so under that condition?
Nothing good happens at 2.
No. Okay. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Special use permit is approved. Resolution is adopted. Thank you for coming before here, and good luck to you.
Good luck.
Thank you for investing in
Yes,
Arundel.
thank you. Good luck.
It was a good meeting to do your presentation in front of.
Madam Clerk.
Public hearing number 2 on the matter of adopting a local law pursuant to Town Code Section 132-6, paren D, relating to bow hunt regulations for the Arundequoit Deer Management Program.
Forgive me, I was grabbing the sign-in sheet. May I have a motion to open public hearing? Thank you. In a second?
Second.
Thank you. Just briefly, I will just give a brief overview of the proposed resolution with some context. I'm then going to ask Officer McCackey from our police department to answer some questions the board might have, and then we will go in sequence, sign up, based on our sign-up sheet. So it's hard to imagine the town of Arundequoit without thinking of our population of deer. They're part of our identity, and indeed the white-tailed deer is a beautiful animal. And in many ways, the growth of the white-tailed deer population in Arundequoit was inevitable. If you look at the layout of our town, you have the river to the west, the lake to the north, the bay to the east, a highway to the south, and then you have a 1,000-acre park in the middle, which technically isn't Arundequoit, but also several large wooded areas that are adjacent to a town that's 95% built out. So the geographic layout and biological layout of Arundequoit truly is unique. There were actually no deer in Greater Rochester in the 1930s, but by 1970 there obviously were many. The towns in Arundequoit, deer became permanent residents, but this came with consequences, namely in the form of motor vehicle accidents, as well as other public health concerns such as Lyme disease. New York State DEC throughout the 1980s advocated for some form of deer management solution in the town. For those of you who lived in Arundequoit, and we have a lot of newer residents who might not have been in here. I was a young boy, I remember it peripherally, but it was a tumultuous time. The state really encouraged the county and the town to have a solution. If you recall, the county in the early 90s administered a bait and shoot program in Durand Eastman Park. The town actually really was not an administrator of that. The town was, I think our primary role was to help close the park down, or through our police department. The program was successful in managing the herd, reducing motor vehicle accidents, but it was very controversial. Ironically, I've actually seen reports of communities in Syracuse particularly enlisting federal sharpshooters to manage their deer herds, similar in a way that bait and shoot works. So 2 decades later, the practice is still being implemented. In 1996, the town, operating with a DEC permit, began administering a structured bow hunt to complement the bait and shoot. By the turn of the century, this was the sole way of managing the deer population, as the county discontinued the bait and shoot in 2001, actually citing the success of the bow hunt in doing so. In 1996, prior to that, Town Board resolution authorized the establishment of a deer hunt program, actually a special permit for purposes notwithstanding our town firearm ordinance to allow bow hunting to take place to manage the deer population. The purpose of the program is not to allow hunting for sport in Arundecoit, but rather to design to address a very serious safety issue in a targeted, controlled manner. Since 1996, the program has been administered by the Arundecoit Police Department in a manner that has allowed it to meet the needs of the program, while recognizing the nuance, and I'll note the nuance that it is involved in having a program like this in a well-developed community like Arundecoit. For several weeks every fall, the program has taken place on both town-owned and private properties that consent to being in this program. In my eyes, the results have been clear, and the simplest way and most cost-effective way to assess the overall population of deer, I believe, is looking at the number of deer-related motor vehicle accidents in Arundecoit. There are other means of assessment, but from the start, with bait and shoot and subsequently with the bow hunt, the number of MVAs went down significantly, from roughly 200 to 30 or 40 a year. At times, however, this has created inevitable conflict, either with residents opposed to the hunt altogether, or those raising legitimate concerns with its proximity to their property. That was evident in 2015 and 2016, namely when residents of a particular neighborhood objected to the hunt on certain properties in the neighborhood. In an attempt to maintain balance between the objectives of the program and a need to be mindful of residents' concerns, certain properties were not admitted for hunting last year. The owners of certain properties not permitted filed an Article 78 petition against the town, otherwise known as suing the town, which ultimately led to a December 2016 decision by Supreme Court Judge Stander nullifying the town's decision on whether the bow hunt could take place on his property. In doing so, Judge Stander pointed out a deficiency of the program, mainly that in 1996 the town board never set clear regulations governing the program and never authorized the Arundecoit Police Department to have broad authority to regulate it. That said, the department has traditionally managed this program in a very structured, controlled manner. The Judge Stander, did not speak to the administration of the program, only that it lacked appropriate town board authorization and a formalized structure. Therefore, though not mandated, though strongly recommended by the judge to allow this necessary program to continue, last month I advanced draft legislation to govern the bow hunt. I will note, and I'll note this because we've gotten some feedback on this, much of these draft regulations simply codify into law regulations that have governed the program for nearly 2 decades, and I contend done so very well. However, there are some provisions in the draft regulations that are mindful, again, that there is a need to try and maintain a balance between the objectives of the program and the fact that Arundecoit is a developed town. Namely, we propose creating an independent board to manage certain aspects of the program, including a new mechanism that would allow for either residents or hunters to appeal decisions made by the IPD administrator. Furthermore, we propose more transparency for the hunt. While I'll note many residents really don't notice the hunt taking place, this has never been a desired objective. We also propose requiring an assessment of the size of the herd, which will allow us to determine the prudence of the program's future need. And I'll just end by noting that the bow hunt has received, I think in many cases, national recognition as being an effective urban deer management program. It does not exist to prevent deer from eating residents' gardens, and we get feedback from residents about their vegetation and their flowers, but this is a routine complaint actually filed in my office. We're interested in making Arundecoit streets safer to drive on, to manage threats to public health. In doing so, however, we're committed to ensuring that any deer management program is done safely. And I will just say, we've done this in concert with state DEC for many years. About a decade ago, the DEC really relinquished its role in the sense that they stopped annual assessment and really gave the town the steering wheel for this. Art Kirsch was a longtime DEC manager of the program. He's since retired. He was a friend of the town, was always availed himself for this program. Michael Wasilko is the regional wildlife manager of DEC. Did submit testimony, which I'll commit to the record, just supporting the continuation of the program and lauding its goals and supporting the draft legislation. So with that, I'm going to actually call Officer Michael McCackey as our first witness, and then we will go down the list. Officer, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Can you just give me state your name, your affiliation with the town, and your role in managing the program?
Michael Lawrence McCackey, Town of Arundecoit Police Officer.
And how long have you administered the program?
7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years. Have you been involved with the program during your whole tenure in the department?
Briefly for a few years, then I was away from it for a little while, and then the chief asked me if I might be interested in taking over the lead on it.
Okay. I'll just ask one question. You know, as I said earlier, deer-related motor vehicle accidents, or what we call MVAs, are really one of the biggest justifications for the program. This is not a hunt; it's a public safety initiative. Can you speak actually to the number, or roundly the number of deer MVAs that might have existed in the early 1990s, and how that's progressed to our present day, and if it's trended out at all?
Prior to the inception of either the bait and shoot or our bow hunt program, the car deer accidents for the town of Arundecoit were 200, low 200s to mid 200s. Since I've been involved in the program, our numbers have been low 30s to, I think last year was 40, 41 accidents.
Okay.
So, significant difference.
I'll yield, Jen?
Yeah, Section 1, the references the town has identified certain areas that have high concentration of deer. What was there any methodology applied over the years to determine, what determines high concentration of deer?
All right. If we relate to the car deer accidents, but we also relate to the areas, the open areas where the deer would be. So along the bay, along Kings Highway corridor, and St. Paul Sagamore area, and then an area we refer to as the Flats, which is out Seneca Park Ave, St. Joseph.
Are there any areas that are, just to follow up on that, are there any areas that are wooded that the deer just don't venture off into the road and kind of keep to themselves?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so, one thing, and I'll just, if no one else has a question, it's a lengthy process by which a hunter can be admitted into the deer management program. Part of that is ensuring quality. Can you give I don't know if you have this imprinted into your head, but just an overview of the different progression by which someone can become a qualified hunter participating in the program?
Okay, for us, typically we're looking for someone 18 years of age or older, because we don't perform the hunt when school's not in session, so therefore someone that it would be eligible by state standards, 12, 13, 14-year-old, shouldn't be with us hunting, they should be in school. So 18 or older, hunter education class, certified bow hunter, and then they come to us and we put them through a proficiency exam, or what we call a qualifier.
How proficient do they have to be?
There's some very good shots here. It's not an easy course. It's a fair course for someone that practices and takes the craft seriously. We ask them to address 3 separate foam 3D targets at varying angles and distances with 2 arrows each, and acceptable score is 5 out of 6 or better.
And how often do they have to do that to be admitted into the program?
To become vested in the program, they have to do that for two times.
2 times, the first 2 consecutive years?
Correct.
And obviously they need all relevant state permits. Is there a special permit issued pursuant just relative to this area?
Well, once we get past that part, then we have a site review. So the hunters that are interested in participating with us need to meet with the officers, and what we do is we walk the town-owned property. From there, we ask that on that date that they have the site review, depending on scheduling and when the permits are released by the state, they have to have an 8C permit for
Can you just clarify what that is for the board?
that allows them to take an antlerless deer in that zone at
Okay, that's-
8C.
gotcha.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Pete.
What about the concept of using only, town-owned land, or alternately, getting an agreement from the county for Durand Eastman Park? What about those type of concepts?
The town-owned land, we have 6 sites. Using that alone would not allow us to get the harvest numbers that we would need to be successful. There's just, there's more hunters, and there's not enough access to sites with just the 6 town-owned properties.
what about the concept of, getting agreement from the county or something to use Durand Eastman Park?
They're not interested in letting us hunt on their property.
Are there, have you finished, Peter?
Go ahead, of course.
Are there a lot of properties, private properties, where people have signed waivers to allow hunting on their properties? And do you think people are well informed about the laws and how they can stop people from hunting on their property, those who don't want it? So there's two questions.
There are a lot of properties that's what allows us to be successful with the program, is that partnership with the property owners in the town of Arundecoit. And I do believe that those property owners are informed of what their rights are and how this process works.
And I'll note the draft legislation would allow a new mechanism, as I referenced in the beginning, for folks within a radius of a property that's participating or admitted into the program to appeal to first the IPD, and then if any aggrieved party, whether it's the property owner, the hunter, or the resident concerned, can then appeal to an independent board that will be established pursuant to this draft resolution.
Officer, some of the concerns from residents has included runaway deer once they've been injured and are potentially dying. Can you tell us how often that happens and what the current precautions are in terms of preventing that?
Okay, for any of the sites that the hunters are on, if they have an animal that doesn't immediately drop on their hunt area, and they believe it goes off, their responsibility is to contact us to advise us that they feel they may need us for a track. If we know that we're going on to someone's property, we try to make a notify of what our intentions are and what the purpose of that is to recover the animal. Last year, I believe we went on 2 tracks.
So not a whole lot.
Well, we harvested over 100 deer, and 2 tracks out of 100, I don't think is a lot.
I'll note in 2014, the program was discontinued for a year. Did you notice any uptick or we haven't assessed, admittedly, we haven't assessed the herd, the size of the herd. We use MVAs, and we're trying to set up a scientific model to do that. Any opinion on whether or not that impacted the overall size of the herd?
I believe that in the combination with some mild winters have caused the herd size in Arundecoit to swell. Other than scientific data, that would be Art Kirsch.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Forgive me, I think it was I think I cited the wrong year. I believe it was 2012.
2012.
Okay.
Last year you said you got over 100 deer. Right now, how many? Right now, like for 2016, how many hunters were in the program?
For this past
Yeah,
year,
for this
minus the qualification I
Yeah.
just had this past weekend, we're in excess of 100 hunters
Really?
on the
Okay.
rolls.
Okay.
And you and I have.
Obviously, they're not all out there at the same time. I mean, they're all, some go at certain times. And what are the hunting hours? Or it's
Monday through Friday,
okay
sunrise to noon.
to noon? Okay.
And then we typically avoid days where school's not in session.
Okay.
And that's
Like Friday, Thanksgiving, whatever other holiday falls in that period.
And just to note for the council and the residents, that's a policy that has existed that was incorporated into the draft regulation. So it's, again, formulating that into the draft town code ordinance. And we cap it, I believe, 30 hunters per day. And I think that's a combination of bandwidth of the department being able to manage it, but also just an appropriate number.
Yeah, I think that's an acceptable number.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, I'll just note too, I call Officer McCackey up as a witness, but I wanted him to just be able to demonstrate his proficiency in managing the program. He's been assigned to this for several years, and it isn't always an easy task. Maintaining that balance between the objectives of the program involves a relationship between the town, the hunters who take part, and also the residents. And he certainly, I wouldn't feel comfortable advancing this legislation if I didn't know the IPD did a very good job in managing it. I think a lot of folks will agree with that in this room. So I just want to thank you for your time and service. We might call on you for additional questions after the public portion of the hearing.
I'll be in the bag.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna, just as we start our public hearing, and I thank everyone for coming, and if you didn't sign up, you're welcome to still speak after we go through the list of folks who've signed up. In general, we like to limit time between 3 and 5 minutes. If you do need more time, you can ask for it. I know some folks here might be representing a larger group or coalition, so certainly we'll make exceptions. A few just general guidelines. You know, the purpose of this is we have draft legislation, and we rely on the public for comment on it. We're not inclined to answer questions from here. Certainly, if you do have questions, we will provide clarity in the interim period. We're not going to act on anything this month. You'll note there's no agenda item to pass a new town ordinance. We want to garner feedback, not just tonight, but also in the interim between now and the next board meeting where we may act on a new regulation. But this is really for us to get feedback from folks, help us understand how we might have gotten this right in the draft regulations, what we can do better. That's the point of the public hearing. I will say we've always had a good decorum and level of civility in here. My ask is that you don't comment out from the audience. We would be respectful of one another as we go through this. We're going to have it just one time to speak. And again, if you want to respond to things that have been said by any other speakers, I encourage you to write or email us in that interim period, or you're welcome to come to next month's meeting for public input as well. But we're going to have to maintain some order. So say what you like to say in your time up, and you can always find ways to get comment to the board, and we will have a full record prior to acting, and we'll make that record available for residents of the town.
Dave, I mean, we've also already received some written input that will be made part of the
Yes, of
record
course.
also.
Yep. My goal is to have a full record of folks who have already submitted, who will be talking tonight, and will subsequently be providing us input. We've gotten a lot of good comments already thus far. With that, I'll call the first person to sign up. We have Tony Ferrara, 47 Pine Grove.
Hi, I'm Tony Ferrara, 47 Pine Grove. I've lived in Arundecoit my whole life. I've worked for the town. Something that should be said before I start this, Mike and Joe Kuhn, who usually run the program, they do a double shift. When they're not watching deer, they're also on call for the police department, so it's not like they're just sitting waiting for somebody to take an animal. Let me start this. Some of it has already been said, so I've been in this program for about 20 years. In that time frame, we've averaged between 80 and 100 deer per year, which equates to about 16 to 2,000 animals. There has been no issue in 20 years. We follow New York State DEC rules and the police requirements. We can only hunt while kids are in school and most residents are working. The hours are sun up till noon, Monday through Friday, unless holidays when we don't hunt at all. We have other populated cities calling the town police force, asking how to run this program because it's so sufficient. There is no cleaning of your animal on site. Everything is taken to a designated area. There is no waste to these animals because all the hunters are responsible to take care of it. There could be on any given day 30 hunters in the program on different sites. If you hunt the program, you have to call in the morning to report that you're in, and you have to call out when you report you're out. You also have to call when you shoot an animal. Being run with the police eliminates all the problems that would occur on an open hunt. This hunt is very organized. In order to hunt, you have to qualify, and it's not easy. Trust me, I go and help, and I've done it. This has to be done twice to meet the rules set in place. In the past, the town has tried other ways to remove these animals. With sharpshooters, which was not as effective, was costly to town residents, plus animals were brought to a disposal facility to get rid of them. The next thing the town tried was chemically injected the deer to try to make the does sterile, which causes these deer not only to have a chemical inside of them, but it also causes them to go into heat every month. So instead of a short period of time having carved deer accidents from October to early November, or end of November, you're talking 12 months out of a year where you got to watch out for carved deer accidents. When the hunt first started, you would see the deer with ear tags and collars, the ones that were submitted with the chemical, with fawns and sometimes two fawns walking behind them. And that showed that the injections just weren't working. The reason for the deer program is to reduce the car deer accidents, create a manageable deer herd so the animals are not starving during the winter months, cut down on damage to residents' landscapes, and finally try to control the Lyme disease ticks deer carry. Kings Highway years ago was one of the worst roads nationally from dusk to dawn for car deer accidents. Since the bow hunt, that problem has ended. If other cities are trying to copy Irondequoit's program, then it's on the right track for safe removal of these deer in a populated area. Even the residents that are complaining didn't realize people were hunting in their neighborhood. If this program wasn't working, it would have been eliminated years ago. Police stats prove this program works. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Everett Wardell. For the record, just state, anyone in back of you, state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Everett Wardell. I live at 454 St. Joseph Street, known as the Flats. I've been down there for 29 years. The first several years that I lived there, at one point I counted 31 deer from my house. That was in the backyard and across the street from the house. That is a lot of deer. After the bow hunt started, I've been in the program since its inception. I appreciate all the hard work that the police officers do, and I've really enjoyed the program, and it's been very safe and has worked extremely well. Right now, I might see 5 or 6 deer at a time. So I had a lot of other notes, but most of them have been covered. I don't think I need to go through all the stuff that Tony and them already stated. But I believe in the program.
Do you allow hunting on your property, or you?
I hunt on my own property.
You do. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. One of the few people in Irondequoit that is able to get up in the morning and walk out back and enjoy my own property.
Very good.
Okay. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Next up, I believe it's Jody Ferrara. Forgive me if I can't read cursive anymore. Evening.
Good evening. I'm Jody Ferrara. I'm from South Byron. I've been in the program since its inception, and like Tony and Mr. Waddell has already spoken, they've hit some of my points, so I'll alleviate them. Some of the things and questions that you had in reference to this hunt, I'd like to address those. I am also the Region 8 representative for New York Bow Hunters. I'm also a DEC hunter safety instructor. I instruct basic course, and I also do archery. So I am well informed on what goes on with this program. New York Bow Hunters was, at the inception of this program, also one of the contributors to helping to develop this program. For the Kings Highway auto accidents back in 1990 era, it was averaging 264 deer per year. Of that, talking to a biologist, add a third, and that's how many deer auto accidents were occurring in this area. I was one of them. I was hit on my motorcycle on Lakeshore Boulevard. I survived. I know several that haven't. Since the program has come on, the deer auto accidents have declined. The 1 year that the deer auto accidents, the 1 year that our program was stopped, the deer auto accidents increased from 4% to 10%. So it clearly shows that this program does work, and we do have an effect on what's going on. I know of several other programs around the country. They're very effective. The same model that comes from here originally originated from Suffolk County in Long Island, which I am originally from. If you didn't pick
Couldn't tell.
You couldn't tell. So that's one of the things. County participation, they have no interest in participating in it. They just like in doing the increase of, and letting the population go rampant. They turn a blind eye. It's also evident on Route 65 in Clover near Menonponds Park, which has now become one of the highest deer auto accidents in the state because there's no deer management. This deer management program is a highly effective program. In reference to how close in proximity of where you can hunt, the law is that you have to be away by 150 feet from any other residence. So most of the places we shoot, I shoot over on Sagamore, I am over 150 feet away. When I started this, it was initially 500 feet, and we went outside the 500-foot limit to shoot. And there's still a big population there, but I've watched the population drop. And as I said, the population. Some of the interests I have also is that that I've noted. The question may be, well, you're from South Byron. I originally, after moving here from Long Island, I used to live over in Charlotte. I spent 10 years working over at the Reunion, so I do have a pretty good idea of the area. The other thing is, too, my wife is buried in Arundecoit Cemetery. When I go see her, at any time during sunrise or sunset, I can count at least 3 dozen deer. That's in that area, which is, I'm not sure exactly, but I'd say it's about 20 acres there, maybe 40 acres. That's about 4 times what should be allowed within that area as a deer population should come about with it. I'm going to submit to your town clerk. This is the manual for deer hunter safety class. And on page 14 here, there's a graph here showing what a pair of deer, what their population in 7 years will come. If the population is stopped, just one pair of deer, they'll generate over 40 deer within the 7 years. Guesstimating, and I used to spend a lot of time at Camp Eastman watching the deer and also the turkeys. I'd say there's a few hundred, right? And say 200 deer, if you want to say that much, but I'd say it's probably 5 times that. Take that and do the math on what comes up and figure out how much your deer population is going to come up. Okay. One of the other things is as a benefit, people like myself, some other people hunters that come in from the outside area, we're generating income, tax money, and benefiting by the town providing this experience. Not only do I pay for a general license, which even though we were supposed to get a break on it, it's a $98 tax to pay for all my licenses. I don't have a problem with paying for your permit to come and hunt also. The only red meat in my freezer is the deer that I hunt from Arundecoit. And I got to say, I got 3 this year, so I've got about somewhere around 100 pounds of meat. I'm still enjoying it. One of our local processors provided me with some wonderful hot dogs, bologna, and the like. So there's more to the combination here. So that's about it.
Thank you. And you can leave that with our clerk.
Yes.
Okay. Next up, thank you, sir. We have Lisa Deloise. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Can I just ask, just so folks can hear, I don't know if they can hear here, but back home, try and speak into the mic. I just want to make sure we get it for the
I
record.
sit up there, I have troubles hearing. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Okay, thanks.
My name is Lisa DeLuise. I live at 63 Spring Valley Drive in Arundecoit. I've been there for over 20 years. And I want to first express my sincere gratitude to all those involved in trying to formalize this bow hunt program, the regulations, making it more transparent to the public. I think that's very important. There are many positive aspects that, when reading through the proposal, that due to time, I'm not going to really elaborate on those because it's more important to me to state my opinion about the deficiencies or, some of the flaws that I read through it. Back in February, a group of people led by the Huntington Hills President, Jeannie Colombo, who sits here today, presented to the board a, proposal, if you will, that included many components that seemed missing in the one that you provided to us. And there are many deficiencies, too numerous to go through here. I would like to address two that are the most egregious, in my opinion. First, there's too much subjectivity in the administration of the program by the Arundecoit Police Department. I love the Arundecoit Police and the officers that are here, whom I actually know pretty well now. The board that you're talking about putting together, forget the language right, there's going to be a member selected by the Arundecoit Police. So I feel that the board should be objective, at least have one person on the board that is not pro-hunting per se. So if the board is made up of all hunters, I'm not sure that people opposed to hunting or hunting in their specific areas would be, objectively reviewed. So probably even more important than that to me is the Arundecoit Police Department also have the ability to decide whether, a parcel could be qualified for the program or not. And it's just completely subjective at this point by the way I read. So I'm requesting, suggesting, hoping that the board will consider setting objective metrics and define like first pass criteria on whether a property parcel would be suitable enough for hunting. For me, objective metrics would include a minimum lot size and a distance between, where the lot is relative to any public or private land, including things like bus stops, okay? So my personal experience, I was actually kind of shocked to hear that there were only 2 tracks this year by the Arundecoit Police Department because they must have both happened in my neighborhood, like on my street. So I know how far where the hunting site was to where the track and where they found that deer. Okay, if you consider that distance, a minimum lot size would be 10 acres or, actually more because it's about 1,200 feet. My neighbor, Adam Stein, who's present here today, informed me just before coming over here that compound bows are now part of the program. Not a bow hunter, so I don't know what that means specifically, but they could travel 400 feet, which is, almost, the lot size that you would need should be much bigger than 150 feet away from a property. Okay, that covers that. Second, it stated that, quote, in section 4-3, that if for reasons unique to the neighborhood or property and creating a safety concern for people in that particular neighborhood, a neighbor or a property owner within 500 feet could request that such property not be included in the program. So I really appreciate the incorporation of this qualifier into the regulations. However, I must point out that there are caveats that discriminate some of the citizens, not only in my neighborhood, but it could be other neighborhoods as well. Okay, I live on a private drive. Recently, there was a small parcel across the street from my house, less than 1/3 of an acre, 500, so was it 3, but it doesn't matter, okay, less than 1/3 of an acre, that was last year considered for the bow hunt. And I requested that the property not be included. Because I live 500 feet from that parcel, which is literally like 10 feet across the street from where my property begins, this guy would want to hunt there, I couldn't petition the board to have, it be reviewed. But my neighbors who live down the street, much further than 500 feet away have to use Spring Valley Drive to ingress and egress to their property. So they're going to experience the same safety concerns that I have just by, living there. So I think that the wording in this regulations needs to consider that unique situation. And they should be able to petition as well. So I'm going to finish up here. I think that we all agree that the bow hunt's a privilege, not a right. I'm a tax-paying citizen, town of Arundequoit, state of New York, United States of America. I have a right to feel secure in my home. My government cannot authorize land use that would jeopardize my public safety, and it must protect my citizens from violence, okay? There are some, including myself, that consider how bow hunting to be a violent, inhumane act that should not be imposed onto citizens who do not wish to partake in such activities. There's this thing called the bundle of legal rights. It ensures that real estate owners have the right to enjoy their property. And I'm so happy one of our neighbors here and gets to enjoy his property. But if the government allows bow hunting to occur in my neighborhood and a shot deer runs onto my property and dies, this would not be enjoyable. And by allowing that, you would be violating my rights. So therefore, I ask the Arundequoit hunting rules be revised to ensure public safety, number 1, and protect properties owners' rights, number 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Jim Franklin. Evening.
My name is Jim Franklin. I live out in Fairport, actually. However, my family grew up in Arundequoit. Both of my children graduated from West Arundequoit High School. So I have a deep-seated root in Arundequoit. Unlike some of the other speakers, I haven't hunted in the program since its inception. I believe this will be my 5th year. The one thing I can say is it's run extremely well. As other people have said, it's imperative that we check in. When we come in the morning, we check out. Qualifiers were mentioned as well. To me, it's just a no-brainer that it's going to reduce deer accidents, probably save lives and a lot of property as well. It's something that I take time off from work, my vacation days, spend a lot of time, or as much time as I possibly can, to participate in the program just because I can see its value and its worth. And everybody, the Arundequoit police that I've dealt with, the other hunters that I've met and talked to, everyone conducts themselves in a very, very professional way. A lot of the hunters will text each other. If we happen to see a deer that's let's say, out of my range, I'll text somebody that I know that's going to be maybe a little bit further down, letting them know that, hey, there's a deer coming your way. The object is to eliminate the deer. So, I don't pass up a deer unless it's a bad shot. I want to make sure that everything is done in a humane fashion, that it's a quick kill. And I practice. I'll start probably shooting arrows, 10, 15 arrows a day starting in August, shooting hundreds and hundreds of arrows before I even set foot out in the field. So it's something that I take seriously. Don't take it lightly, and I come out here with the express purpose to eliminate as many of the deer as I possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Steve Wild, I believe ex-president of Huntington Hills Neighborhood Association. Evening.
My name is Steve Wild. I live at 500 Hoffman Road in Huntington Hills subdivision. And as Supervisor Seeley said, that I am the past president, one of many actually, of the Huntington Hills Corporation, which is responsible for overseeing the well-being of somewhere around 65 acres of commons area within the Huntington Hills subdivision. Okay, having said that, we have a concern that there's a great amount of deer in that area. Most of the roughly 63 properties that are within that subdivision border on the commons area. Now, because of the way the tax maps are and everything, the commons area is split up in, I think, 9 different areas. So we know there are a lot of deer there. I've lived in that area for almost 40 years now. I'd like to say that we're making progress on this issue. I think we're making good progress. I think we can come to resolution on it. I believe the board has received the input from several people that are concerned about how the program is run as a result of your draft resolution, anticipating that it'll become part of the town code. I believe the items that we put in that document in response are in bold type so that you can understand under the various sections what we're concerned about. There are a couple of primary concerns. One, very important, is knowing whether my neighbor on either side has been given a permit to allow hunting on their property. That really needs to be available to anyone. It ought to be on the town website. It ought to be very clear. It shouldn't be any guesswork. And even though we haven't had any problem yet, people should be informed of somebody hunting near you, whether it's bow hunting with a compound bow or a long bow. The other thing is, and you'll see that towards that end of the document, and I think Jeannie Colombo is going to speak to some of those items this evening, the idea that if a resident who is a neighbor of a permitted property allowing bow hunting disagrees with that for whatever reason, and they shouldn't have to justify that reason, because we do know the business of hunting with a bow is not a kill and drop in all cases. And regardless of what people have said this evening relative to how far a deer runs, it did happen last year. And I know for a fact some of those deer ran onto Commons area. And this particular corporation forbids hunting on any of that 65 acres. And I know for a fact that I had an agreement when I was president, that the police would notify me, call me as president to let me know that they had to track a deer on Commons area. I did not receive a call. I know that for a fact. All right, let's put that aside. That's last year. What can we do about this? I urge the board to read those comments in bold type and take them under serious consideration. We have to be more transparent with what properties are being permitted. We're not asking to do away with bow hunting. We're not asking to do away with a deer management program. We all recognize it is a big problem. Second point I'd like to bring up is relative to why is it that only the town of Arundecoit has this responsibility. As the supervisor said earlier in his opening remarks, we do know that Durand Eastman Park has a lot to do with the surrounding Arundecoit community in terms of the boundary area. Now, it's my understanding that the city owns that property. Monroe County is tagged with the responsibility of maintaining the park. Now, I believe that's still the case. If that is the case, then why isn't Monroe County and the city of Rochester taking on the responsibility or sharing in the responsibility of what the town of Arundecoit is trying to do? If we have a deer management issue, and we do, we all agree to that, why does the responsibility stop at that boundary of Durand Eastman Park? That does not make sense, and I would encourage somebody on the board to pursue that matter much further. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Adam Stein.
Evening.
Evening.
Adam Stein, 111 Spring Valley Drive. A lot have been said already, so what I going over, has kind of been touched upon, but I want to say it maybe a little different way, something hasn't been said before. And so while there's a lot missing from the draft, I do want to go over at least 2 points that I think were important. And the first one, and the biggest one I see, is no consent needed from surrounding neighbors. And this has been touched upon before, but if you look at the draft, neighbors adjacent to a property that allow hunting do not need to be notified when the property owner is seeking approval, do not need to be notified when the property owner is granted approval, and it does not need to be notified when hunting is occurring. In fact, the only time they might be notified at all is when the hunter wants to track something on that property. And then they might be notified then. But that's it. Otherwise, they're clueless, and they have no idea what's going on right next to them. Okay? And so what happens as a result of this is that this is a voluntary program. Okay? Homeowners can volunteer to be in a program by allowing hunting on their property. But in effect, what they're doing is forcing all their neighbors to volunteer in this program without their consent. They're forcing them to be in this program. And that's a problem I see. Okay? The other thing I wanted to mention is that while it has been mentioned that assessments are done after the fact to see how well the program is working, and that's good, there actually have been no studies done that I can find to say, well, this is the best way to do this. Maybe there's this in combination with something else. Maybe there's something else. I don't know. A FOIL request was done, and it shows that no studies are on record to say how you figured out your concerned areas, what the problems are, and this is the best way to solve it. Which might be, but there's no studies to say that. And so I see that a lack of studies for anything as a problem as well, because you're kind of going in saying, well, we did this before, we're just going to do this again. Because we know it works to some extent. Whether there's something better, whether there's other things that are cheaper for us to do, you don't look at it. You just go on because this is what we've always done. So that's it.
Thank you. Next up, we have signed up Linda Stevens. Good evening.
Good evening, Linda Stevens, 491 Hoffman Road. I just want to say that although I am not a bow hunter myself, I do believe in this program. It's great. It's always been run very professionally. Everybody that I have ever dealt with during this program has been totally, on board. They know what they're doing. So that being said, I don't feel that people should know if I allow hunting on my land or not. Because my husband, who is a bow hunter, we had a bow target way out in our backyard. And one day we got up and that target was knifed about 75 times and dragged from the backyard into the front yard in the middle of our driveway. So I'm afraid of retaliations. I'm not afraid of a bow because when you shoot that arrow, it only goes one way and no one's going to be shooting an arrow at my house. So I'm not worried about that. Nobody shoots across the street. People know what they're supposed to be doing, okay? But I'm afraid of retaliation from the neighbors if they know that I allow hunting on my land. And I think that's a huge concern, seeing how something has happened on my land. Also, I'm also concerned about the conservation of this whole program. The land behind my house, I'm right on Hoffman Road in Huntington Hills. The land behind my house are older trees, and especially this winter with the windstorm and everything, trees fell down all over the place. In fact, one was on my house. That being said, there's no little trees coming up to replace them. I have a hill in back of, the Huntington Hills is all hilly. These big trees come down, the deer are eating all the little seedlings come up, and what are you going to have in 20 years? Major erosion. That's what's going to happen. So the deer population, even though it's controlled, still we have too many deer to support the land that they are in. We need even less deer now. As much as I love to watch them and see the fawns, I have to look at that. And I also have to look at the fawns that were born last year. If you come down my road, you're going to see little itty bitty fawns this big. They were born last year. In a healthy environment, those deer should be a lot bigger. So they're very thin. You see their ribs. You see the mamas who are running around with twins. I see the ribs on those doe. And it tells me that our conservation down there really, we need less deer than what we have now. So I would support having the bow program even go even longer, because we have to get rid of this problem. We need to have the health of our environment, our conservation, our land, and the deer. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jeannie Colombo. Evening, council.
Good evening. We did send these out, but you said to give it to the town clerk.
Thank you.
Again.
Thank you for sending in advance. I appreciate it.
We want to thank the town council and the supervisor for putting this together. We appreciate the thought that's gone into it. What we did, we had many comments, and we have them here tonight if you want to see what everyone's comments were, but everyone's time is valuable. So what we did is take your regulation and add in bold what we think is what we believe would be helpful to make a good regulation. As an attorney, and I do live at 95 Huntington Hill Center entrance for the last, 23 years, and I was born, so I've been a resident of Arundecoit my whole life. But anyway, as an attorney, what I did was I added in your time frames, because Judge Stander, who I do know and who's a stickler, and this is where this would go back to, one of the reasons he was discussing arbitrary and capricious, because I sat through that oral argument, is you have to have your dates and your times, and you did that, but you didn't do it as precise as you should. I think it's great that you're going to have the DMB board, and so we put in time frames. Those time frames, of course, could change depending on how you do your program, but we put in time frames so that residents do know who's going to be hunting and where. And I think if you go through that on your own, you can appreciate why we put those in, and it gives everybody time frames. Those obviously can be changed based upon what you are all really thinking in terms of your program. But we put in that people would have to know by July 15th of a year who's in the program and where they are. And I can appreciate Mrs. Stevens doesn't want anyone to know that her husband's hunting, but she has to appreciate those of us that walk in the 65 acres would like to know that they're not being in the way of a bow that morning. And I do walk in our woods because we own 65 acres, not just my own 1.5 acres. And so I would like to know as an individual that I'm safe. It's a concept. And I pay for that land by my taxes, and we just want to know where everyone is. And that was one of the problems that happened. Last year, 3 deer that we know of in our neighborhood ran loose. One made it all the way to Huffman and Culver Road. So you cannot say that they're tracking their deer and they're taking care of business. Not totally. What we also were wondering is in the website provision, you took out that there will be someone, a biologist, who will look at how many deer you have. And that's on page 2, number 11, and I'd asked that be put back in because you don't know how many deer you have. And some people think the deer are fat, some think they're skinny, some think there's too many. And so what you need is to have somebody tell you, so then you can tell us and say, okay, this is really what the population has turned into. It's obviously much less than it was. The program has been effective in that respect for those who want that type of program, but you have to have some control. If the issue is no deer, then maybe that should be spoken to. I personally like the deer. I like the fox, but we don't have fox hunting. So everyone has an opinion about this, and we understand, and for the hunters in the room, we understand that the program will continue. We just want to really know the facts and the figures. You did put back in that the hunters have to be 18. We're asking also, though, that the hunts, be people that own the property in the town, and we had assumed that the hunters were Arundecoiters. It sounds like they're everywhere, but we would like that the program, that there be no more than two hunters on a property. We very much want that they're on page 1, that it is not to be for commercial purpose or financial gain. One of the hunters, very much was telling everyone that he's renting out space so that they can have a hunting program, and that's not what this program is supposed to be about. With respect to incidents of runaway deer, we also believe that if a hunter has 2 incidents of a runaway deer in one season, he needs to go back to square one and be recertified. Obviously, he's not doing his job, and sometimes there's bad luck, but, start over. With respect to page 6, number 16, you took out in your website one about the bows, and originally we believed that it was only the long bow, and then that was put in as a crossbow. We don't know if you're doing the longbow and the crossbow. If you're doing the crossbow, you've got to go at least 250, because that's the law, feet.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think crossbows, and Officer McCackey, I believe crossbows you cannot hunt, wouldn't be eligible, so. Okay, thank you. So crossbows would not be permitted. Thank you. And also, I'll give you as much time as you want, but thank you for pointing out, and sometimes when you're working off Microsoft Word and you do track changes, things inadvertently get omitted, and I thank you for this. Section 1, subsection 11 should still be in there, relevant to the biologist in determining the size of the herd. So that was taken out in error, and I appreciate you pointing that out, Ms. Colombo.
We appreciate you putting it back in. The other thing that you do really need to have from our position is you've got to put in designated bus stops, because there are bus stops, and the children are going to school between sunrise and noon, probably sunrise and 8. And so there are bus stops, and so you really need to make sure that your designated hunting is not around the children. We did put in something that may be controversial, but it's like if the deer runs and the police have to be called, because ultimately they are the ones that can go on other people's property with permission, that if somebody does not want the deer killed on their property, then that should be respected. And under absolutely no circumstances should any children under the ages of 18 years old have to see the deer killed in front of them, which is what started all of this, when the 2 little children, 4 and 6 years old, got to see the police officer and the neighbor gun down the deer right in front of them. It's not a good thing. And that's what started this. So you can smile, but it happened. It happened.
Let's be respectful. I just asked that.
And that's all right, because everyone has their, but that actually happened, and we have the foil on that. We have the neighbor that had to deal with it. So we're just saying children should not have to be part of this hunting program. And then with respect to the structures, we'd ask that a deer stand not be visible to the neighbors. With respect to the most important one, which is page 7, number 3, we really would like it to be that if a neighbor does not want hunting next door to them, that anyone on a boundary line to somebody who wants to hunt has the right to say, no, I don't want this. If I really don't want my next door neighbor sitting off the back porch shooting the deer, I shouldn't have to deal with it. Mr. Reese, who's not here tonight because he had to go out on business, he has a lot, he said, that's only 70 feet wide. And the arrows, he's in West Arundecoit, and the arrows travel. And so he said literally if the neighbor next door is shooting, it'll shoot across no way out, it'll shoot across his property. It could go through 4 people's property before the arrow stops. And I know we got great hunters there, but not all of them are accurate. It's, there's a reality to hunting. So another individual came to our meeting, and we used your lovely library. It's a great facility. Thank you for building it. And he brought 4 arrows with him, and I thought, oh, he hunts, and those were the arrows he picked up off his property. And so they're being shot, and things happen. And we very much would like, because Judge Stander will probably want this at page 7, number 3, is the reasons why the IPD officers would not allow hunting. And we put down 4 or 5 very good reasons, and we'd ask that those be included, because if you don't include them, your Article 78 will fail again. And so by putting them in, you're putting in reasons why people don't want hunting that would be a reason for the officer not to allow it. And basically, the rest of it is in there that you can read. But what we try to do is we took your document and we just made it easy for you to read over what we were thinking. We do not want hunting necessarily to stop. That's an issue that has been going on in this town forever. We just want you to make a regulation that is not arbitrary and capricious, which will help you, survive the next time from Judge Stander, because it will go back to him. That's how the wheel works over there. And that you have your specificity. The other issue that Ms. DeLuise, Dr. DeLuise brought up was in your page 1, number 10, that originally said that the police officer gets to pick a citizen. We're asking that the town board pick a non-hunter to be on that board, or at least allow people to submit applications to the board who are interested in being on that committee, as opposed to selecting somebody, so that this way people that are interested have an opportunity to speak up. But I would like to thank all of you, because you followed through, you put together a good starting point. We're asking you to really seriously consider the comments we made. We spent many hours on this with many, many comments coming from all different people. We're not opposed to the hunters. As they said, a lot of the hunters are, good, decent people that know how to hunt. But there are issues that come up, and this would protect both the town, the hunter, and the non-hunter. And I would like to make sure that I'm safe in my neighborhood, and I would like to make sure that with these extra thoughts in here, that you would make a very good regulation that would withstand another lawsuit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, Christine Norris. Evening.
I'm Christine Norris. I live at 101 Dogwood Lane, which is in the Huntington Hills neighborhood. I'd like to preface my statement saying I'm not against hunting. I understand the need for it. I bought my house 22 years ago because it's in the woods, because it's full of nature. I bought it knowing there were deer and they would eat my plants, and I planted things they won't eat. I'm concerned that we weren't notified. I only found out that there was somebody hunting 2 doors down from me because one of my neighbors happened to go to the meeting last year where they told people. And you're proud of the fact that we don't know the hunters are there, but that concerns me because I'd like to know they're there. Because like Jeannie, I have a dog, I walk in the woods, I just want to be safe. And I know I live on the east side of town, but there's people on the west side of town whose children are walking to school, and kids don't always take the sidewalks. I've seen on social media concerned citizens belittled for their opinions. This is dividing neighbors. But anyway, I just want to know that you'll be considering our thoughts when you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe it's Dave Wilkinson. This is the last person to sign up. However, folks are certainly, who haven't spoken, are welcome to come up after Mr. Wilkinson. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Name's Dave Wilkinson. I live at 147 Spring Valley Drive. I've lived there since 1957. First of all, I'd like to say that we used to have a zoo down on Zoo Road, and it was run by the county, and it had bison, it had deer, it had pheasant. And when they took it out in roughly around 1960, they took all the animals out except the deer. They released the deer. That is why we have a deer problem, okay? Now, this is the county's problem. It's not your problem, okay? I think, well, I would also like to preface this by saying I'm not against hunting. I admire the due diligence that you've all made, and I'm not really against hunting in Arundecoit. But this is a county problem, and you shouldn't be the lead agency on this particular problem. You should go back to the county, sue them if you have to, but they will not allow any hunting there for one reason: liability. Town of Arundecoit is taking all of the liability on this, and if anybody gets hurt, guess who's liable for it? You guys are. And it doesn't matter if it's somebody's dog, it doesn't matter. It's just very dangerous. Arundecoit's, the lots aren't that big. there's a guy on my street, he bought 3 garden plots. They're 50 by 100. And he plans to hunt there. Well, there's no way he's going to shoot a deer and not have it travel 50 or 100 feet onto the commons property. And I don't think that he should be allowed, to hunt there. Now, they call it Huntington Hills for a reason. They're hills. If you think everybody is shooting straight and level, you're wrong. People will be shooting from the valleys up, from the hills down, across. Now, I'm not a bow hunter, but I know the arrows travel quite a distance. And if you're shooting up, now you got an arrow in the air. I realize these guys are very proficient, but mistakes happen. I think there's other solutions available. I don't know what they are, but that's up to you guys. And I think and I do admire what you've done with this program. I think it needs some refinement, but I still think that our lots are not large enough to have deer hunting. Supervisor himself said we're 95% populated. Well, that's the truth. And at Huntington Hills, yes, we're spread out a little bit more. However, we do use our our facilities, and we walk around a lot, and with our animals and such. Right across the street from me, Mr. Anderson Park. I can walk back there, and I can walk for a mile. And I wouldn't mind hunting in there, but why does somebody have to be hunting next to my property? So what I'm trying to say to you guys is that everybody is talking about the motor vehicle accidents. There's a lot more to this than that. There's liability, and it's a very, very strict thing. I mean, your job, as I see it, is to protect us against motor vehicle accidents, but also to protect us against an errant arrow, which may or may never happen. But if all of you are willing to take that chance, God bless you. Okay, because this is recorded. I now telling you, you're all on notice. If anything happens, you will be sued. Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes the folks who have signed up. If anyone else wishes to speak on this public hearing, raise your hand and come forward. I saw a hand up there. And again, I'll just say the preference is not to perhaps respond to individual comments made before. Let's try and speak in general, help inform our decision-making process.
My name is Clay Marchese. I'd like to clear up a misconception about how archers are actually shooting their bows. Number one, they're not on the ground shooting. An arrow does have a propensity to go actually a couple hundred yards, but everybody is in a tree stand. Okay? You're 20 feet up in the air. Ethically, we want to shoot a deer that's under 20 yards in front of us. Now, you can probably figure out the math. You're 20 feet up, 60 feet in front of you. You're shooting the arrow down. The arrow is not being shot from the ground in this direction at all. Everybody uses a tree stand on this program. Everybody. Okay. And as for car collisions and motorcyclists dying, as of one just died recently from hitting a deer. And I did have a person on Mount Airy tell me how much they just loved all the deer that they saw, 26 of them in their backyard, which now presents another problem, coyotes. I know everyone who lives in Irondequoit has seen coyotes now. I counted 9 different ones behind this guy's house. He loved everything so much, except for the fact that his cat was eaten by one. I found the remains in a den that was behind his house. So now you not only have a deer problem, you have a coyote problem.
because if you don't hunt the deer, first of all, let's change the language. If we change the language, everything seems to change. We're not hunters anymore. We've been in a deer elimination program. Also, we're feeding a lot of hungry people with these deer. We've been asked by the police if we want to donate those deer, and most everybody does. So there's a twofold thing that's going on. We're not just hunting deer anymore. We're donating venison. Thank you.
Thank you. Saw a hand over here, perhaps. Yes, sir. Good evening. Just state your name and address for the record.
I'm Stephen Greavy, 105 Conifer Lane. I'd like to talk as well about the safety issue. If anyone can find any instances of anybody in the last 50 years being injured by an arrow other than the hunter themselves, I'd like to hear about it. Because my wife Googled it, and there were only 2 people, I think in the late 40s or 50s, that had been accidentally shot by an arrow. It just doesn't happen. What happens is the hunters, the accidents in bow hunting are from people who are not safe about getting into their stands. They use old equipment. They don't use harnesses. They fall out of the tree stands. They kind of sometimes accidentally hurt themselves with an arrow, but your dog or you are never in any possible danger. If I challenge the people that are worried about safety to come up with some instances where something's happened. It just doesn't happen. And like the gentleman said, people are up in tree stands shooting down, and it's not. And when you're in a tree stand, it's a great thing to do, by the way, just to observe nature, to be up in the tree and have kind of be concealed and watch nature unfold. But you see everything around you, and you see anybody that's walking within 100 yards, you're going to see. You're constantly looking and trying to be alert. You're definitely not going to shoot an arrow in the direction, especially the people that have to qualify in this program, which is, I'd like to reiterate, is run very well. I have a lot of other feelings about it, but a lot of them have been expressed already. So, as a member of the Conservation Board, my main concern with the deer problem here is that not everybody seems to be worried about deer car accidents, and that's certainly an issue, but the deer are ruining the plant life, and especially in the parks. All the county parks have black swallowwort, garlic mustard invading their park, and it's because hunting isn't allowed there, and the deer are eating all the native plants when they first come up, all the emergents, and there's no the invasives don't have any, nothing's eating the invasives, so the invasives come in and take over the plant community. So that's a big concern of mine. And the health of the animals, which has been mentioned, is a big concern. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Evening.
Good evening, Mr. Seeley. My name's Ed Stevens. I'm sure you all remember me from past meetings. I'm going to keep this short because of the Huntington Hills and Town Board meetings I've spoken over the past year or so. I just wanted to reiterate, Art Kirsch did that PowerPoint for us at a meeting months ago. And I just wanted to reiterate, Jody touched on it, that for each buck and a doe, after 7 to 8, I can't remember if it was 7 years or 8 years, they produce 64 deer. And I think I did the math at one point for the last 8 years or so, however long those deer would be. You could work the math out. But it came to like 26,000 deer more would be in this town. I mean, had they all lived, obviously they wouldn't all live, but just a phenomenal reproduction rate. And of course we're seeing it now, but I wanted to just reiterate that, the high level of repopulation that they, because we're seeing, 2 fawns for does, pretty regular over there on Hoffman Road. And the other things I wanted to point out, so far this year, the deer have eaten 2 different plant varieties that they have never touched before. And we're talking in, early June. I mean, they're hungry. I mean, they've just literally, like Steve said, they've just eaten themselves out of house and home. And it's not just what they're eating, and it's not just that most of the does look anorexic, but the reproductive cycles are skewed also. Last August, I saw a fawn that probably wasn't a week old. And if you look at some of the fawns and some of the little ones and, even the yearlings, we saw a yearling tonight on the way here. I don't think that yearling weighed 20 pounds. I mean, just very, very small, very small. But I just, I'm just concerned, like Steve, about the health of the deer herd as well as the health of the environment. It wasn't this winter, but it was actually last winter. I happened to be on the phone with Steve, who only lives like probably 3/8 of a mile away. Between the two of us, we had 41 deer we could see. Between what he could see out his window and I could see out my window when we were on the phone. I mean, 41 deer in that little itty bitty area is just absurd. I mean, it's almost like, what's the park down there in Mendon Ponds Park? I don't know if you've ever been down there at night, but good Lord, you see 150 deer in the field. But that's it.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else? Yes. Actually, this gentleman had his hand up, and then you. And anyone else? Okay, so this gentleman in the green will be our last. And then, this gentleman in the pink will be. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Scott. I'm a Greece resident. I've been in the program about 4 years. I just want to say this program has been run incredible. It's been safety the whole way through. I just wanted to say that this program is renewable. People participating in the program are going to the town of Rondequoit, and they're spending money for breakfast. We're getting water. We're buying discharge permits, which is giving the town of Rondequoit money. So the people are giving to the town of Rondequoit, even who aren't residents, and they're also keeping the safety factor down from people from reducing the deer population. And so we're talking about safety from possible stray arrows that have never happened to the safety of deer that have killed people, hundreds of accidents that have stopped and 0 arrow accidents. So I just wanted to say that the program's doing great and the officers have been wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Gentleman right here. Evening.
Good evening. Hello, my name's Rich Oxley, and I also live in Huntington Hills. I've been part of the program for, 4 or 5 years. And one of the things that DEC does, they send out to certain bow hunters or bow hunter sighting logs, which every day you go out, you mark where you hunt and how many deer you see. So I hunted 15 times in the Huntington Hills neighborhood. In 2016, I saw 97 deer. In 2015, I hunted 17 times. I saw 124 deer. So there are lots of deer. I also want to tell you that Lyme's disease is pretty prevalent. My son had it 4 years ago, and currently right now I'm on doxycycline because I have Lyme's disease. And so it's a health issue. My family, we eat red meat, predominantly the venison that is harvested and when I bow hunt. So personally, I think the program's very safe. I live, like I say, I hunt near the Huntington Hills area. How many people do I see walking in the woods? Very few. Almost 0. You see way more deer than you see people. And secondly, I want to dispel something that's been very much said that's totally incorrect, and that is the 6 and the 4-year-old seeing the deer being shot. That is preposterous. So that rumor has been going on for a long time now, and I just want to say that I was there, and the kids did not see it. They were nowhere in sight. So, again, I think the program's run really well. We need to be able to eliminate some of the deer for health reasons, for environmental reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Gentleman right there, yes. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sam Ruggieri. I live at 590 Hoffman Road. I don't think most of the people in this room, I think, support the program, the deer bow hunt program. What many of us are concerned about is the way it's managed. And a couple of years ago, I was coming out of my garage, and there was a police officer and a bow hunter, and they were tracking a deer. And so my question is, I mean, theoretically, yes, they're going to contact us. But what's the process? Do they call us on the telephone? So I think there's a disconnect there. Because in theory, it's great, but in the practical application, we don't get notified. Now, my neighbor they were tracking on his land too, so that's two of us. So when you give the authority to a hunter, which I support hunting, and I appreciate what these hunters are doing for Irondequoit. There's no question about it. I applaud them. But I think it's the way it's parts of the program are being managed. The fact that when you give a homeowner and a bow hunter the right to hunt on a lot, if they have to track that deer, they're going to end up everywhere. Now, Huntington Hills is a unique area. It has 65 or 70 acres of what we call the commons, and it runs throughout the 75 lots in Huntington Hills. And you can go from your lot onto the commons and get to any other lot in the subdivision. So, you know, if you're hunting in Huntington Hills and you're tracking a deer, you're probably going to be on the commons. And there's no hunting on the commons. And the commons, you know, it's not posted. Maybe it would be, I guess you could post it. Well, parts of it might be, but not all of it. I mean, nobody really knows exactly where the commons begins and ends. You know, because it's jagged. It runs all over the place. So, you know, my question is, number one, how do you contact people when you're going to trespass? A policeman and a hunter are going to trespass. They have to get approval. What's the process for that? What's the real process? Not the theoretical process. That's what I want to know. Do they have my phone number, or do they knock on the door? I mean, you know, I have the right to quiet enjoyment, just as the hunters have the right to hunt. We also, as homeowners, have rights too. I mean, up until this point, it's really been the bow hunters and whoever oversees the program that's really put together the management program. And thank you for allowing the homeowners to give you input in this program. We appreciate that. And most of the people that you've heard that want to sort of tweak the program are from Huntington Hills because, you know, we're inundated with people knocking on their door that want to hunt. Because we have large parcels and we have an overabundance of deer, there's no question. But I have the right to quiet enjoyment. And I had, you know, and it didn't happen when I found this police officer who was a gentleman and a bow hunter that's in this room next to my garage. It sort of startled me. So my question is, if they found the deer, what would they then do? Would they shoot it? Would the police officer pull out a gun and shoot it? What if I wasn't home? Would they shoot it? I mean, they must have known they were on private property. They were 5 feet from my garage. I think that if these bow hunters want to hunt on private land, they should have approval from a majority of the people that live adjacent to the property that's going to be hunted. I know many of these people don't even live in Arundequoit. And they're coming here to hunt, which is fine. But homeowners have rights. You know, and what I read from the document that you put together is fine. But, you know, I think it has to be tweaked. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further interested folks, we're going to keep the public hearing open. And I encourage residents, either in attendance tonight or watching at home, or continue to give us information. I also just appreciate, I'm always proud looking out the level of civility that's maintained, and it's an emotional issue, but I appreciate both, you know, the articulate way that people conduct themselves. I think there's a lot of intelligent people here with sometimes diverse viewpoints, but you know, that's kind of how it works, is the confluence of diverse viewpoints. So I appreciate that. We will take all of the input, particularly that which was delivered from the coalition for recommendations. And I will say, I think there's a lot of stuff in there that makes sense. So I thank you for those. And it's nice when citizens can help us maybe enhance something we've proposed. We will have another draft forthcoming in the next few weeks, and our plan would likely be to consider an enacted a resolution at the next board meeting. So I will leave the public hearing open. We have other public hearings to move on to, and then I believe our body of our work to complete. So I will not take offense if folks do not wish to stay, and I'll actually just have a brief recess while people filter out. Give it a minute. Discussions can take place in the parking lot. To order. Thank you for our guests. And Madam Clerk, would you now call up the third public hearing relative to Lake Bluff Road?
Public hearing number 3 on the matter of Consolidated Sewer District Extension at 158 Lake Bluff Road.
Motion open public hearing. Moved. And a second? Okay, public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is open. I anticipate this public hearing not taking as long as the previous one. This is a sewer district extension, which was actually implemented at the owner's risk. They had an immediate need to connect to the consolidated sewer district. They did so at their own risk with no guarantee that the town board would approve said connection after this public hearing. I will now actually ask if anyone in the attendance wishes to come up and address the board on this matter. Shockingly, there is none. I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing number 3 is closed. Madam Clerk.
Authorizing the town board to approve the extension of the consolidated sewer district to include 158 Lake Bluff Road.
Motion?
Moved. Second.
And a second. Thank you. Mr. Kiley, just to confirm, this was a connection that a permit was issued contingent on approval by the town board, and again, the owner did so at his or her own risk, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Supervisor.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk, I now ask you to call back up public hearing 5PH 2017-4 relative to Cottonwood Lane from Thatcher to Thomas Avenue.
On the matter of authorizing speed reduction on Cottonwood Lane from Thatcher Road to Thomas Avenue from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour and the establishment of traffic control devices.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This public hearing currently was held open from last meeting after receiving some input from residents. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board at this time? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to close public hearing.
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. And just I'll preface before Madam Clerk calls up agenda item 4A, we did make a modification, and we thank the residents for their attendance last week in providing us input. It is our intent, and we have amended the proposed local law and notified the town board within the required amount of time. What we have done at the request and consensus is to remove the Thatcher Road stop sign. Chief is nodding, so that is correct. So that's the only amendment, was the omission of the Thatcher Road stop sign from the initial proposed legislation. Madam Clerk, please call up the first resolution.
4A, resolution pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act with respect to traffic control measures for Cottonwood Lane.
I have a motion? And a second.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Kiley, brief explanation? Or, yes, Mr. Kiley, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. In reviewing the environmental impacts associated with the establishment of the traffic control devices, the recommendation to the town board is that that this is an unlisted action under the State Environmental Quality Review, and there will be no adverse impacts to the environment. A
Thank you.
negative declaration should be filed.
Thank you. Just for clarification, that the seeker is required because it's a local law, Madam Attorney?
It's, the seeker is required because the reduction of the speed limit is specifically what's an unlisted action. Actually, the inclusion of stop signs themselves is a type 2 action and therefore exempt from seeker review. But because included in the local law is actually a reduction of speed and not just an installation of traffic control devices, that's where the seeker reviews come in. So it's not just that it's a local law, it's that the town board is approving an action that would be an unlisted action.
Nothing like a good seeker explanation. Okay, any questions or comments on this resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
4B, authorizing the adoption of local law of 2017 to authorize traffic control measures for Cottonwood Lane by amending sections 222-52 and 222-51 of the Code of the Town of Arundequoit.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second? Chief, brief explanation just of what we're doing and what was changed. I already underscored it, but if you will.
Yes, sir, Mr. Supervisor. The speed reduction is for 25 miles per hour on Cottonwood Lane between Thatcher Road and Thomas Avenue. That comes as a request from the residents within the area, as well as a traffic study that was completed by a road patrol sergeant in monitoring that traffic, as well as the installation of stop signs for westbound traffic on Florenton at Cottonwood Lane, as well as Barron's Road at Cottonwood Lane. And as you previously mentioned, the initial proposal was for a stop sign at Thatcher Road. However, that has been deleted from the proposal based upon public input and a reassessment of the area.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Chief? I would just like to, hope they're watching at home, thank the residents who came to the public hearing. It was actually very good democracy and work, and we appreciate the feedback. And I also want to thank Chief for very quickly going out into the field and talking to residents and ensuring that their concerns were heard. So I'm glad for this outcome. Hearing no questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. I believe Madam Clerk will now move on to agenda item 7.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 7, calling for a public hearing on the matter of granting a special use permit to operate an auto repair garage on premises at 1378 East Ridge Road in a C Business District.
Motion, please.
Move.
And a second. Ms. Kelly, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Basically, this would just support the existing facility. The way our code is written, a special use permit is needed for this.
Very good. And the hearing will take place next month
Yes,
at 7:36 PM, I believe.
yes, correct.
Questions or comments?
Thank you.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 8, authorizing the adoption of the Monroe County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly, explanation?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Being that Monroe County is the lead emergency manager, they require all municipalities to adopt their hazard mitigation plan. This is done every 5 years, and this would just require us to sign on to said plan.
Thank you. And I'll note this is a type 2 action, thus not requiring seeker review. Any questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 9, accepting gifts for Invigorator Arundequite.
Motion?
Move.
And a second.
Second?
Thank you, Councilwoman Hushler-Ray. Deputy Commissioner Sinton, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This allows the board to accept various gifts from in support of the last Invigorate Arundequite, which was hugely successful. These gifts came from various elected officials and businesses throughout the town.
Thank you, and we thank all of the generous donors for helping make this another successful event, and all the volunteers who took part. Any questions or comments? Yes, I have 1 second. Okay, council informs me that a certain elected official, friends of Dave Seeley, was left out of the now before they're resolved. Madam Clerk, I ask you, and after the word Carbone and before the word Genriches, I believe that's right, please insert the term friends of Dave Seeley. Can I have a motion for that amendment?
Moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Amendment is advanced. On the resolution, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. I will spend the early morning tomorrow figuring out who drafted this resolution and discipline them accordingly. Don, run. Okay. Madam Clerk.
Item number 10, authorizing the town board to call for a public hearing in the matter of 113 Seneca Park Avenue, entering into the Consolidated Sewer District.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Commissioner Kiley, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This resolution calls for a public hearing to be held next month at the regular scheduled town board meeting in July for the extension of the Consolidated Sewer District. This would allow the property located at 113 Seneca Park Avenue to tap into the the town sanitary sewer system.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Kiley. I feel the Consolidated Sewer District has grown in popularity since I took over from Adam, so I take that as a compliment. All those in favor to calling the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 11, authorizing the award of 2017 Sanitary Sewer Replacement Program.
Motion?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Kiley?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. On May 25th, 2017, the town of Arundequite posted an invitation to bid for various sanitary sewer lateral dig jobs that we seek to have completed during the summer of 2017. On June 15th, 2017, those bids were publicly opened, with the lowest responsible bidder being Lammas Construction in the amount of $181,610. Again, as discussed in previous board meetings, we funded the sanitary sewer CIP, Capital Improvement Program. This type of upgrades to the sanitary sewer system is a very acceptable encumbrance within that CIP, and we certainly look forward to monitoring and continuing to upgrade our sanitary sewers system.
Thank you, Bob. This is funded through sewer fund balance?
That capital improvement program was funded through sanitary sewer fund balance, so this was not bonded funds.
Very good. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 12, appointing the town board as lead agency for the development of the Public Works facility.
Motion? And a second.
Second.
Thanks, Councilwoman Hustler-Ray. Mr. Kiley, an explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. At last month's town board meeting, the town of Arundecoit's town board declared its intent to be the lead agent for the state environmental quality review associated with the construction of a new highway facility at the 590-104 interchange. After a 30-day wait period and notification to other agencies, specifically the County of Monroe and the State of New York, the State of New York and County of Monroe both concur that the town of Arundecoit is most acceptable to be the lead agent for this matter, and this resolution officially accepts that determination and deems the town board the lead agent for seeker purposes for this project.
Thank you, Bob. What will follow should this resolution be adopted relevant to seeker?
Gotcha. So a Part 2 and Part 3 will be developed, and this will analyze all of the different potential adverse impacts to the environment. This will be reviewed in concert with the State of New York and County of Monroe, but the town board is the lead agent for that review process. The town at this time is moving through that process with the town's engineer, LaBelle Associates.
Very good. Any questions or comments for the commissioner? And thank you, Bob, for your continued good work on not expediting, but making this process run efficiently, but with sound review. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 13, authorizing an updated meeting room rental fee schedule for the Bureau of Recreation and Community Services.
Motion. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Protocol. Mr. Sinton, explanation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Back in February of 2016, the board took on a meeting room rental fee schedule for various rooms throughout the Town Hall campus here and our Pine Grove facility. Amendment B tonight adds the gazebo to that original list.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Sinton. Any questions or comments? I hear none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Item number 14, authorizing the appointments of 2 members to the Ethics Committee.
Motion. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Weiner. Our ethics committee, serves a very important role of reviewing all of the public officers in the town of Arundecoit, including town board, zoning board, planning board, and I believe certain appointed officers as well. I might be mistaken, but anyone filing a financial disclosure to the town of Arundecoit, the ethics committee reviews that and determines if there's any inherent conflicts of interest relevant to town business that might interfere with them being able to do their job. So this independent board is a monitor on that, mitigating us of any conflicts of interest, and I'm happy to advance the names of Faith Rose Cleveland and Tara Keller, who have expressed an interest in serving on the committee. And they will serve the balance of unexpired terms until December 31st, 2000. Oh, excuse me, Miss Cleveland will serve an unexpired term until December 31st, 2020, and Ms. Keller will serve an unexpired term, the balance of that unexpired term until the end of 2021. Any questions or comments? And as always, thank you to the board members for helping identify these capable citizens to serve on this committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 15, approving establishment of new traffic control device, Walnut Park.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. Chief, explanation, if you will.
The resolution, Mr. Supervisor, is to establish a school speed limit zone on East Ridge Road that would be 140 feet west of Walnut Park to 410 feet west of Forest Avenue, basically the equivalent of 1/4 mile. The establishment of that school zone would be in compliance with the manual for uniform traffic control devices as established by regulation and New York state law.
Thanks, Chief. I'll just comment on this resolution and the next one. Back in April, the town, along with the two school superintendents, petitioned the county administration to advocate for reduced speed zones near our high school campuses. In the case of West Arundecoit, that includes the junior high. We had follow-up meetings with the county administration, particularly county DOT and the deputy county executive, and we thank them for their support in this. This is, at this time, the maximum distance we can extend a school zone. It's a quarter mile. I'll note on the Cooper Road, which is the next resolution, we are going to pursue perhaps notwithstanding that law, making the case that West Arundecoit is a walking district, and the stacking of the two schools necessitates perhaps a lengthier zone. So I think I'm happy to take this first step, especially given some of the tragedy we've seen the past few months. But our ultimate goal is to keep our streets safe for our children who are walking to and from school. So thank you, Chief. Thank you, Bob, for your work on this. Any questions or comments? 1 second, please. Laura, which one?
East Ridge High School. So the location should be 140 feet west of East Ridge Road. Not Walnut Park.
No, East Ridge Road is.
Confirm with.
Chief, can we just confirm the location of the East Ridge Road? 140 feet west of Walnut Park to 140 feet west of Forest Avenue? Is that correct?
I believe that's correct, on East Ridge Road.
And that was what it was referenced in the county's ordinance. Bob, you see any issue
Yeah,
with
I
this?
think, sorry for the pregnant pause there, but I believe there's an issue with the title of the resolution as the town clerk read. The title within the agenda that the town clerk read was adopt a resolution approving the establishment of a new traffic control device on Walnut Park. That should be changed to a new traffic control device.
So the issue is how it's referenced in the agenda.
That is
Madam Attorney,
correct.
do you see issue with that as we're passing a resolution that has a correct title?
We should amend so that the minute books that the clerk maintains of all the resolutions are.
Okay, so my request would be in the minutes, just reflect that this first resolution replace Walnut Park with East Ridge Road, just to make sure, the resolution itself is fine, it's the agenda item. So thank you for pointing that out, I want to make sure we get it right. All those in favor on the resolution with the amended title in the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 16, approving establishment of new traffic control device, Cooper Road.
Cooper Road. Motion? And a second?
Second.
Thanks, John. Chief, this would extend on Cooper Road 106 feet north of Hoover Road to 1,400 feet north of Hoover Road. So roughly, the entrance of the high school campus headed northbound on Cooper Road to a little bit before, I believe, Winona on Cooper Road.
That is correct.
Okay. And, again, this is one where you might make the case it necessitates ultimately a longer zone. I'm glad we're doing this, and we're going to have some enhancements in addition to the reduction. Chief, mind just speaking on that?
Not at all. In our discussions as far as how we move forward, we're certainly going to have a more enhanced education and information campaign associated with, in particular, schools open, and what we might do as far as lawn signs in that area, both north and south of both of those school buildings that are on Cooper Road, to obviously inform and educate our motorists as well as the students in the area, and working with our partners at the West Arundecoit School District to make sure that we are providing an educational and an informative piece, not only to the students, but the parents that are bringing their children to and from school.
And Commissioner Kiley will also be doing some pavement markings, correct?
That is correct, sir. So the town of Arundecoit has been in contact with the county of Monroe. Both Cooper Road and East Ridge Road are roads that are owned and maintained by the county of Monroe. However, the town of Arundecoit Department of Public Works will be out on scene at those locations, putting down pavement markings, putting down pavement markings stating school that will run across the drive lane. So as you move into the school zone, it will be very evident that you are navigating into a school zone, as the word school will be written on the roadway in about 10-foot blocks.
Thanks, Bob. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Item number 17, appointing a police lieutenant in the Arundecoit Police Department.
Motion?
Moved.
And a second.
Second.
Chief, explanation, if you will.
Due to a vacancy that is going to be occurring tomorrow, as well as a future vacancy of a lieutenant's position effective July 9th, it's important that we move forward with replacing those important leadership positions for our platoons. We are recommending tonight, after an extensive interview process with myself and Captain Bean, that Alan Laird, who is reachable on the police lieutenant's list, be appointed as a police lieutenant. That would be effective July 7th. Alan has been a police officer with the town of Arundecoit since the year 2000. He has served as a crime scene technician and still does work in that unit. He's a member of the training unit. He coordinates our field training officer program. He's done extensive research with a number of projects at the Arundecoit Police Department, and he's a very dedicated and committed police officer, not only to this agency, but to this community.
Thanks, Chief, and I will just echo that. I'm very happy to support this resolution. Since I've been involved with the town, future Lieutenant Laird has been a good person to work with, very thoughtful. I know he takes the job very seriously, respects the job, has a very staunch, steadfast commitment to the integrity of the department. He's very visible in representing the department. So it's always nice to see people like Sergeant Laird advancing through the leadership ranks. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Lieutenant Laird, please rise and receive your applause. And I'll note, he often when we make appointments at the end of the meeting, the person has stayed for the duration of the meeting, but you look like you just came off your shift. So if you need to leave, I understand, but we're almost done with the meeting. So congratulations again. And Madam Clerk, please call up the final resolution for the meeting.
Number 18, accepting grant funding from Enterprise Community Partners, Inc.
Motion? Moved. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. I referenced this in my remarks 3 hours ago. We were accepted into a program spearheaded by the Attorney General's office called the Cities Rise program. It's going to largely, there's no transfer of funds to the town. Much of this is expended on the town's behalf, but as such, it's considered a grant. Therefore, we need to formally accept it. And this will help us with our data management, particularly in keeping tabs on various properties throughout town, including vacant or certain nuisance properties. So happy to participate. Thanks to Lauren Kelly, Carrie Ivers for their work in applying for this. And as I said, we were the only upstate town to be admitted into the program. It was Arundecoit and I believe 3 towns from Long Island. So I'm happy that we're participating. Any questions or comments?
Good job.
Very good.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted, and this concludes our body of work for tonight's regular town board meeting, June 20th, 2017. The next workshop meeting will take place Tuesday, July July 11th, 2017, at 4 p.m. here in the Broderick Meeting Room at Town Hall. The next regular Town Board meeting will take place Tuesday, July 18th, 2017, 7 p.m. again here at the Broderick Meeting at Town Hall. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
This presentation of the Arundecoit Town Board on ICAT 12, Arundecoit's government access channel.